Otto, and this is my mid-year freakout tag, which, if you're new to BookTube, is just a series of questions about how the first half of the year has gone, reading-wise, and then what your plans are for the next half. So, yeah, just going to go through the list. Haven't really planned ahead, so it'll be kind of conversational, but I've been watching my friends do this a bunch, and I've been tagged by Alex and Nathan, so here's my very haphazard addition. And while this video will be just the tag itself, for me personally, it's a bit of a milestone because in the first week of July a year ago, I made my first BookTube video, so it's also a makeshift 1-year anniversary of this channel. And it's just really nice to think about how much has changed positively, both as a person and as a reader. And hopefully these questions help me put it into words. So I'll answer them twice, once for the last 6 months and then once for the last year, just to celebrate the BookTube birthday. Yeah, mid-year freakout tag. Okay, so in the last 6 months, I have read 64 books, and I do not plan on keeping that pace up. I've already talked a little bit about the burnout that I was feeling reading-wise like 2 months ago, where somehow turning my hobby into a competition was bad for me. And so for the second half of the year, I really want to focus on having fun while I'm reading and reading alongside other people, which has been the best part, I think, in the last year, is the amount of friends that I was able to make through books. And so same agenda for the next half of the year. A lot of book clubs, a lot of buddy reads, and hopefully just more intentional time with books. I just made a book club with some friends on here, and I also want to make one for the channel itself, maybe, although I don't really know how, aside from Patreon, and I have mixed feelings about that. So if there's a solution y'all can think of, I'm down to make one, I think. I've said that multiple times, but I think this time I'm serious. I am incapable of making one, it turns out. I had all this energy, and I was like, you know what? I keep saying I want to make one. I'm just going to make it. And then Patreon said, I don't think so. And then Discord said, sit down, let me humble you real quick. Just because you coded your Tumblr page in HTML does not mean you know how to make this. And it's true, I don't. The last 2.5 hours, I'm a shell of who I was at the beginning of this video. If you've made your own Patreon, book club, Discord thing, help me. I'm so lost. Fingers crossed I figured out within the next month, and then hopefully I can have like this corner of the internet thing going where people can read books and watch movies and music and etc. with me, and it'll be perfect and amazing and awesome and nothing will ever go wrong ever. Amen. And I'm gonna go to bed. It's midnight now. So, question 1 is best book you've read so far, and for the last 6 months, my answer is a resounding In Love by Alfred Hayes. This is such a short book, and it does so much within 100 pages that I was blown away, and I still think about it super highly. It is so atmospheric, and the way it depicts emotions is unflinching and effortless and tender, and it's just dripping in atmosphere. The back of the book blurbs it as a Miles Davis track or an Edward Hopper painting, and couldn't agree more. It's this 1950s noir where a man meets a stranger in a nightclub and they sit down and he tells her the story of his last relationship. It is so wistful and melancholic. The writing is really evocative and romantic, and the entire thing is just framed in this very cold and past tense way where you just see people slipping through each other's fingers, and it's really affecting. Could not recommend this enough. Think more people should read it, although also I'm down to gatekeep this. So another book I liked from the last 6 months was Book of Delights, which is nonfiction, so just wanted to mention it. It's a series of essays written by Ross Gay about one beautiful thing that happens to him each day for a year. It is the most relentlessly positive thing I've ever read, and it is so infectious and like the blueprint on how to improve your mental health, how to improve your perspective, and just meet life halfway. I immediately started making my own little book of delights where I just started writing down one pretty thing that happened every day, and I've been doing it since February. Could not recommend it enough. Once you start looking, it's very easy to see at least one good thing that happens every day, and stopping at the end of one to just collect your thoughts and put it down, highly recommend it. So yeah, just a general life improving book. And then in the last year, in my first year of booktube, I would say my favorite book that I've read is Walking Through Clear Water in a Pool Painted Black by Cookie Mueller. It's very comparable to Eve Babbitt's in that it's like 1940s, 50s Hollywood it girl stories that are slightly exaggerated, except Cookie Mueller's life is a lot less glamorous than Eve Babbitt's, so it's just grimier, dingier. There's a lot wilder stories, and her writing style is also very distinct from Eve Babbitt's. It's a bit more poised and collected. This one is more like you were right in the middle of just this kaleidoscoping dust cloud that is hard to see through. It was a book that I remember reading early on, and it really helped me define my taste. It's pretty underrated, so just wanted to give it its flowers where I can. Yeah, highly recommend the book. Question 2 is best sequel you've read so far, and in the last 6 months and the last year I've read none, but I want to change that and read book 2 of the My Struggle series. There's 6 of these, so I don't know what that's called, a hexagon, and book 2 is even longer than the first, so 600-ish pages. I'm surprised at how much I ended up enjoying book 1, which, in case you're unfamiliar with the series, it's a memoir that is self-written by this Norwegian writer about his life from early childhood to present day. This one covers early childhood up until his early-ish 20s, where he has a death in his family and deals with that. There's a lot of distance that he manages to keep while writing about himself, and it ends up feeling not detached, but still critical of his younger self. There's no attempts to sugarcoat anything or paint himself in a positive light, and because of that, it comes across as really dense, philosophical, and introspective, and not like self-aggrandizing or like victimizing. And book 2 is a lot lighter tonally, so instead of a death in his family, this one is about him falling in love and becoming a father. So looking forward to something hopefully just as dense but not as sad. Question 3 is new release that you haven't read yet but want to. For the last 6 months, a new book is Whale by Chung Myung Kwan. Haven't read this yet. It was shortlisted for the International Booker this year, and hence it got a bit of buzz. I have seen other people read it and enjoy it, but for some reason I'm just kind of intimidated by this. It's a multi-generational interwoven tale about 3 different characters in Korea. It's supposed to be humorous, kind of satirical, a little bit of magical realism in this. I think on paper I would enjoy this, but for some reason I am very reluctant to pick it up, although I just saw Nathan and Yenna read this, so maybe that'll push me to finally do it. And then for the last year, a book that came out a while ago that I still haven't gotten to is A Horse at Night on Writing by Amina Kane. It's a nonfiction book, about reading books, about writing books, about books as objects, etc. Want to get to it. It's super skinny. There's no excuse I have as to why I haven't yet, but I feel like this is going to require brain power on my end, and I have not had that recently. But soon, maybe, I hope. I would like to read both of those by the end of this year. I'll just say that out loud and see if it happens. Question 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Honestly, my backlist is way too long to really get excited, although there are objectively some cool things coming out, like Brandon Taylor has a new book, The Late Americans, but I haven't read Filthy Animals. Zadie Smith has The Fraud coming out, but I haven't read White Teeth, and Mona Awad has Rouge coming out, but I have not read Bunny, so yeah, just more to add to the TBR, but I have older stuff to get to first, or that I'd like to get to first, before I can really get excited about those. The one thing I will end up getting come November is the Tatami Time Machine Blues, which is the sequel to the Tatami Galaxy, which is one of my favorite anime ever. Same author made one of my favorite anime movies, The Night is Short, Walk On Girl. I have talked ad nauseum about this, so I won't get into it, but there's a sequel coming out. I will get it. Question 5 is biggest disappointment, and I have a couple. I don't ever really talk about books that I DNF on here, but I have DNF'd a couple. 2 that stand out from the last 6 months are Big Swiss and Time Shelter. Big Swiss had so much hype in the Instagram cinematic universe, and so once that library hold came in, I was really excited because everyone was talking about it. And then I was very disappointed to see that it was just another sort of snarky, comical, unlikable narrator book. Although I didn't think it was doing anything new, I got like 100 pages in, didn't see it going in an interesting direction, and abandoned ship. And then same thing with Time Shelter, where it won the International Booker this year, which was a super stacked lineup. So I was like, damn, this is probably really good. That library hold came in, super excited, started reading. I wasn't feeling it initially, but I wanted to give it a chance to kind of set the exposition because it just won the Booker. And so got like 150 pages in and then realized the scene had been set for a while and this is just what the book was going to be. And I was in the thick of it and not enjoying it. And so same thing, just closed it, regained my peace of mind and moved on. But those two books were hyped to the high heavens and I did not care to finish either of them. And in the last year, one of the bigger disappointments was All the Lovers in the Night by Miyako Kawakami. I was really excited to engage with her work. It was back like in August or July of last year, and I was looking for Japanese fiction written by women. She's highly recommended. I remember reading it and just being very underwhelmed at how skeletal and understated the story was and how weird the dialogue felt. Just did not really enjoy the book at all. I have since gone on to read every other book she's read and enjoy them a lot more. I like her as a writer, but yeah, I still don't really connect to All the Lovers in the Night. And I remember being super excited and then very, very disappointed. Question 6 is biggest surprise, and for the last 6 months, it is easily What We Talk About When We Talk About Love by Raymond Carver. I went into this knowing nothing and was blown away. In my head, I didn't know anything about Raymond Carver and like his legacy, importance, or writing style, so reading a book that for me was just, oh, I'll pick this up and read it for the book club I'm a part of, I was not ready for how affecting it was going to end up being. I have not stopped thinking about it. I consider it to be one of the best short story collections I've ever read. The emotion, the writing, the snapshot of every single middle America family and dynamic and household that just offers no introduction or resolution. It's just suffocating in the moment. Yeah, I could not pick a favorite story in this if I had to. So many stand out, and I compare a lot of writing that I have since read to Raymond Carver just because his style feels so singular. It's really super, super impressive. And I think because my guard was down in terms of I wasn't reading this going into it expecting a masterpiece, and then I ended up getting one, and I was like, oh, okay. And then for the last year, I've had a ton of surprises because just starting off getting really into books, everything I pick up was just unknown territory for me. And there were so many landmark moments or landmark books where I would pick it up, and then by the time I finished it, I had a completely different idea of what writing could be or what you were allowed to do in books or what books could make you feel. Some standouts were The Hour of the Star by Clarice Lispector, Check Out 19 by Claire Louise Bennett, and Dead End Memories by Banana Yoshimoto. All three of those, for different reasons, just completely changed me as a reader by the time I closed the book in terms of genre and form, emotional connection I was able to have to some of the books, the references within them leading me down these cool rabbit holes. Just everything I picked up in the first 3-ish months of making this channel was super formative because my perspective was so closed. I only ever read genre fiction like Murakami and Stephen King. I was really into horror and magical realism, and that was it. I didn't read anything else. And so reading these books that were outside my comfort zone and connecting to them and just seeing how high the ceiling was, super exciting. And so everything I picked up was just, I had no idea what I was in for. And I still feel the same way, thankfully. I'm very much in a honeymoon phase with reading still, so enjoying it while it lasts, because I know it won't last forever. But for now, there's still genres to explore, authors to read, and books to like, and that's a really cool feeling. So, question 7 is favorite new author, debut, or new to you? So, in the last year, I think it's Tess Gunty. She released The Rabbit Hutch. Really liked that book last year, and I'm excited to see what she does next. And then in the last 6 months, an author that was new to me was Toni Morrison. I read The Bluest Eye and loved it. I'm reading another one right now, which is why I bring it up. I'm reading Love. So yeah, Toni Morrison, new to me, but I am happy to be here alongside her. Yeah, wow. Question 8 is newest fictional crush, and I don't have any fictional ones, but I do have a lot of non-fictional ones, which if anything is even more pathetic. So the big one, like the year-long one, has been James Baldwin, obviously. I have watched so many interviews and documentary things just to hear him talk. He's so smart. His writing is amazing too. But I have this like fantasy where there's a timeline where he's not dead, and also I grew up in that era alongside him, and he liked me back. A girl can dream. And then recently, I just finished an Eve Babbitt's book. I obviously have a crush on her. I mean, she's hard not to like. I think my final answer is going to be Annie or No in Simple Passion. She has got something in that book that I need. Not really, because it's like I could fix her, but no one could fix her. And there's something about that where it's like I would not survive it. But question number 9 is newest favorite character. For the last 6 months, I will go with William Stoner from Stoner by John Williams. It is just such a good character study. He's so fully realized and pitiable, and by the end, you just can't help but be on his side and feel bad that the world did him like that. It's a really great book. And for the last year, I'll go with Mary Cat from We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. Super endearing and charming, and the book would be nowhere near as good without her. She has a very distinct voice, and her perspective is just, yeah, really charming. Question 10 is book that made you cry. And this should come as no surprise if you follow me on Letterboxd, because I cry at every movie I watch. And books are no different, although I cry less to books, but there's still a lot to pick from. Some that stand out from the last 6 months. Upstream, I remember I welled up a ton. There's a ton of just passages that you just connect to very directly, and it's hard not to feel some type of way. Cried a lot too, past just welling up. But in the last year, Giovanni's Room, I remember, got me multiple times, and Pure Color also snuck up on me. Was not like super emotional about it, but the last half was just wringing me out like a sponge. Question 11 is book that made you happy, and for the last 6 months I will go with Temporary by Hilary Leichter. I read this while I was on my trip in Japan, and the mood that I was in definitely contributed to how much I enjoyed this. It's super zany and fast-paced and comedic, and I was right up there with it, so every beat landed, and I ended up having a great time while reading this. For the last year, I will go with The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Not so much book-wise, I think it's fine, but experience-wise, it meant a lot to me at the time to be reading it for part of a book club that I got invited to with Jalen of The Bar and the Bookcase, Anna Wallace Johnson, CJ Reads, and Biblio Sophie. I had just made the channel like a few months ago, and to be invited was just so exciting, and I was so stoked to like be on par with them or in the same call. It was just, it meant a lot, and so reading this I was just so happy and what it meant and like how excited I was. So yeah, not so much the book itself, but when I think about reading this I still get like fuzzy feelings where I'm like, this is such a cute moment, and yeah, just like benchmark in the last year. Question 12 is most beautiful book you've bought or received this year, and I'm going to lean in pretty heavily to the received aspect. I just did a video on book covers, so I feel like I've kind of exhausted what I have to say in that department. So some books I've received in the last year and then the last 6 months that hold some sentimental value are Adolescence Leaves, which is Nathan's book that he came out with. Super, super badass. I still have yet to read it because I'm a terrible person, but I still cherish the object of it and the idea of like, I know so many cool book people that have gone on to do really badass things in the last year, and it's been so cool to see, and I'm very proud on behalf of a lot of people, and that's a cool feeling to have. Like Nathan putting out this book, Jalen got his dream job in publishing, CJ is opening up her own bookstore. I mean, that's so cool to like know these people and like see them. Oh, I won't get into it. Anyways, the next one, for the last 6 months, this is a book that my friend Cami got me for my birthday, and I met them through this channel. So another sort of signifier of I've made so many cool friends, like real life friends, through this, and it is just so nice to think about every once in a while. Books being like the through line to us all. And so these two definitely hold a special place in my heart. Okay, and question number 13 is, what books do you want to read by the end of the year? And I already said at the start, I don't really have like a reading goal that I need to hit. So if I read one book a month for the second half of the year, I'd be okay with that. And so I'm picking 6 books, one for each month, that hopefully I can just devote whatever brain power I'm too scared to exert, because I've been putting these off for forever. So first up is The Idiot by Elif Batuman, then Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, Outline by Rachel Cusk, A Swim in a Pond in the Rain by George Saunders, Ghosts by Edith Wharton, and Confessions of a Mask by Yukio Mishima. There's no real rhyme or reason to them. They don't really have like a through line, but those are just 6 books that I keep being like, I'll read that eventually, and I want to just pause and put them in front of me and get through them. And with that, the middle of the year has been officially freaked out. And I just wanted to say thanks to everybody who made this year so insane, front to back. A lot of friends, a lot of great books and recommendations from y'all. Just so many positive interactions, and I'm so excited for the next year, because I'm sure it'll be... Actually, I'm not sure of anything. No idea what a year from now is going to look like, but I'm excited to find out and document it along the way. Thanks again, for real. Thanks for watching, and bye.